Alright, bet. Review time. What's up guys, Okan here, back at it with another video, and this week we're going to be talking about I keep trying to say Black Panther for some reason, but Black Widow, another film in the MCU. The MCU is finally back in theaters for the first time since what, like 2019? Yeah, we've been getting these shows on Disney Plus, but that's not the true core MCU experience. The MCU experience is going to the theater and watching a film. And that's what we got with Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson. Now, this movie, I'm going to give you guys my synopsis of this movie. It's essentially about Black Widow taking place in between the events of Civil War and Infinity War. And this is when she was still alive, because as we know, she's dead now. R.I.P. Pour one out for her, but it is what it is. She just couldn't make it. But back to the synopsis. It's essentially about Black Widow as she's trying to run from the government and at the same time stop the organization that pretty much was responsible for the way she was brought up and the way she was trained, and stop all these other girls from having to deal with the same thing she's dealing with. And at the same time as that, she's also being chased by a looming threat in the sense of Taskmaster, who's trying to hunt her down and take some stuff from her that she has. So that's my synopsis of the movie. Now, just point blank period, what did I think of the film? I loved it. It was good. It was really good. It was another MCU film, and I can't complain about that, because at this point in time, the MCU, Marvel, Kevin Feige, everybody over there has figured out what works perfectly, and they make these movies in the best way possible. Now, initially starting this movie, it did not feel like an MCU film. It felt like a spy thriller, and that was crazy to me. Who is texting me when I'm in the middle of a review? Anyway, who is texting? So yeah, it felt like a spy thriller, and it didn't feel like an MCU film in that sense, because it felt very different. It didn't feel super big in scale until, I would say, the end of the movie is when it got super MCU-esque. Like, it felt like a Marvel film through and through. But at the beginning, the first few scenes, I'd say the first hour or so, it felt like a spy thriller, and it just felt like it was a spy thriller set in the Marvel universe, which was really cool, because I don't think besides I'm blanking on the name, Winter Soldier, I think that's the closest thing we've got to like a film like this. But this one took it to the next level just a little bit further with what they did, especially with the fights. Let's talk about combat a little bit and that fight scene. I felt the movie that came to mind when I was watching certain fight scenes in this movie was The Bourne Identity, one of the Jason Bourne movies. I think it was the first one. And because these fight scenes were just brutal, and they felt very real and white-knuckled and like just violent. And it reminded me a lot of that movie, because I remember this specific fight scene that took place in an apartment, and this had a fight scene that took place in an apartment. And there was knives being used in that one. There was knives being used in this one. And I don't want to spoil it, but it got pretty intense pretty quickly. But it was pretty dope at the same time, and I really appreciate that. It took place between a couple of the main characters. I was gonna say who, but don't want to spoil it again, like I said, because I'm pretty bad at that, I think, sometimes. But all throughout the movie, there was a good amount of action, and I appreciated that a bunch, because with a Black Widow film, you're expecting there to be action, you're expecting her to have to fight people, you're expecting everybody to have to fight people. And later on in the movie, I would say it reminded me of Mission Impossible in terms of how big the stunts got. Like, at first it felt very small in scale, but later on things felt a lot bigger and a lot more cinematic, I would say. And I really enjoyed that, because at the same time, still Mission Impossible, another spy thriller, and this felt like that in terms of how big and I don't want to say dramatic, but I guess dramatic things got. Like, it didn't reach the scale of like a Fast and Furious film, but it did feel it felt like they took the notch up a lot in that regard. So I appreciated that too, for sure. let's talk about the acting a little bit. So I feel like everybody did a really good job with their acting. Scarlett ScarJo, she's played this role since like the very beginning. Since I believe Iron Man 2 was her first role. I'm pretty sure about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she's played this role to the T since the beginning. She always does this thing like, this is like kind of a specific it's not even a nitpick, it's kind of just pointing something out. Like, she does this kind of like, I don't know if this is like a Scarlett Johansson thing or if this is supposed to be a Black Widow thing, but she makes like this weird little mousy smile, and it's like kind of ingrained in her character at this point, where it's like she's in a situation and she makes this weird little smile. And I really, for some reason, I really like that. Like, it kind of adds to her character. Like, even if she's in a bad situation, she still kind of smiles and plays it off. And I really enjoy that, because that's kind of how the Black Widow character is, and they're sticking true to it even to this point. And it's unfortunate that this is like her last role as of now. Who knows what could happen, because this is the MCU and superhero characters never truly die, as we've seen in comic books and movies already. But besides her, I think Florence Pugh, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. God, she was great in this movie, and I'm in love with her already. I've been that way since Midsummer, and she did great in that, and she did great in this. David Harbour, he was a showstopper for sure. Every time he was on the screen, he made me laugh without a doubt, and I appreciated his acting. And everybody's accents were pretty on point. They weren't very, like, they didn't make me cringe or anything like that, so that was good too. Like, just watching everybody speak in their Russian accents it wasn't graining or anything like that, so it was good to me. And everybody did a pretty good job. I feel like there was a good sense of direction, and I'm blanking on who this film was even directed by. Kate Shortland. I'm not familiar with her work. I don't know what she's done besides this movie, but I feel like there was a good sense of direction in regards to how everything played out and how the scale of everything was in this movie. So I appreciate the directing style, and I know Marvel is great at getting good and talented and sometimes not well known, but still, like I said, talented directors to helm their films, and I always loved that. So that was great. Now, small nitpicks that I had with this movie. I feel like they relied on the MCU a little too much in certain scenes. Like, the main problems I have with this film involve dialogue. Like, there were jokes that were told and they went on a little bit too long. Like, there's a specific scene with Florence Pugh and ScarJo where she's making a joke about how Black Widow, like, her stances in the middle of fights, like how she stands, or like her superhero landings essentially. And the joke, just, we get it, you know, and it just keeps going, and I didn't care for it. And then they bring it back up a little bit later, and I felt like it was better at that point because we just got it and it was done. But bringing it up or mentioning it so often in that first scene was a little graining to me and a little annoying, but it wasn't anything egregious. And besides that, like I said, they kind of relied on the MCU a little bit too much. Like, I can't even recall how many times they mentioned the Avengers in this movie. And if you don't know that this is a Marvel film at this point, that's on you. But they didn't have to mention them that many times for us to get the point that, yes, this film is connected to everything else. We know that. We're in this at this point. Like, this is our lives. Everybody is a Marvel fan. There's nobody that's not a Marvel. My parents are Marvel fans. My family, Marvel fans. My pets that I don't even own yet are Marvel fans. Everybody's a Marvel fan. So we get it. We know that they are in this universe with the Avengers at this point. So the mentioning of them so consistently was a little annoying to me. So I kind of got tired of that. But like I said, just small dialogue things here and there that weren't even that big of an issue. But the ending of the film was really good, I think. It was very, very larger than life. Like, there was a scene where everybody was kind of skydiving and fighting at the same time, and I loved it. It felt very cool and very, like I said, it reminded me of like a Mission Impossible scene or something like that, and I appreciated that a bunch. So I keep saying I appreciated that in this film, but I did, like, in this film, in this review. I'm an idiot. I'm so exhausted right now. I don't even know how I'm filming this, but we're gonna make it work. We're gonna get through this. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps everything up. Like, the film itself was great. It was another MCU film. They've figured out their formula, and they know how to make a good movie, and they get people to helm these films that are talented, even if they're not super well known. And that could just be, let me look up actually what she's been in, because I could be wrong saying she's not well known. I'm not familiar with any of these films, so I guess I'm kind of right. The last movie she made was in 2017, and it was called Berlin Syndrome. Never heard of it. Haven't heard of any of these movies. But like I said, they got someone new to make a movie for them, and it worked out perfectly. So hopefully in the future she'll get more roles, more blockbuster roles like this. But yeah, all in all, Black Widow was a great film. It's probably ranked pretty high in my list of MCU films, all of them. And yeah, I haven't, just very little complaints about the movie. Hardly anything that really bothered me. So that was great. But yeah, that's the review, guys. I appreciate you guys watching this review. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about the movie, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, how high it ranks in your list of Marvel films so far, and everything about it. What was your favorite scene? Things like that. But actually, maybe not that, because that's a spoiler, so just don't do that. I was joking. But everything else, yeah, go ahead and do. But, excuse me, if you guys did enjoy this review, go ahead and like, subscribe, and stay tuned to see what type of content I take on next. Don't know why I'm doing all this, but I'm stuck now doing it. So, see you guys later.
Bye.